Hello again, my name's John and welcome to my latest video. This week I'm going to show you how I make this great English tea time treat, the strawberry jam and cream scone. Here's a list of the ingredients you'll need if you fancy having a go at making these delicious scones. I'll be using what's known as self-raising flour here in the UK, but if you're using plain or all-purpose flour, you'll need to add 3 teaspoons of baking powder to the recipe. OK, start by preheating your oven to 180 degrees Celsius, that's 356 Fahrenheit or gas mark 5. I'm setting mine to 160 degrees Celsius because my oven is fan assisted and it runs about 15 to 20 Celsius hotter than indicated on the dial. Start by adding the flour followed by the butter and then the salt and bicarbonate of soda. You'll possibly know that as baking soda. Don't forget, if you're using all-purpose or plain flour, add 3 teaspoons of baking powder as well. Now start blending the flour and butter together with your fingers. Try to do this as lightly and gently as possible, and lift the flour as you're rubbing. This will incorporate air into the mix and will make the finished scones lighter. Do as I do in a video until the mix resembles light breadcrumbs. It shouldn't take more than 3 or 4 minutes in real time. Time to add the sultanas and sugar. Just mix these in by hand too, and take this opportunity to separate any sultanas that are stuck together. OK, it's time to add the 200 grams of milk with the half teaspoon of vanilla extract in. Just cut this in with a knife, then empty the mix onto the work surface. I make my own vanilla extract. If you'd like to see how I make it, I have a video on my channel. Once again, gently start folding the mix together by hand. Try not to overwork the dough. If you handle it too much or too harshly, the finished scones won't be as light as they should be. OK, it's time to roll out the dough into a 20mm or 3/4 of an inch thick slab. Dust the dough on the bench with a little flour before rolling, and once again do this lightly. You don't want to force any unnecessary air out of it. I'm barely applying any pressure on the rolling pin. Now you'll need to grease a large baking tray. I'm using a little butter, but you can use oil or even lard for this. A quick word about the scone cutter. To get 12 decent sized scones out of this recipe you'll need a 2.5 inch or 65mm cutter. The finished scones look more attractive with a scalloped edge cutter like the one I'm using. I've made a little modification to my cutter by drilling 4 small holes around the edge so the air has somewhere to escape when I press down on the cutter with the palm of my hand. Manufacturers, please take note. OK, press straight down on the cutter and give it a quick wiggle, and arrange the scones on the tray evenly apart. These scones tend to rise upwards rather than outwards, so they don't have to be a long way apart. Just arrange them the way I'm doing them. Once the scones are arranged on the tray, get them straight into the preheated oven. I don't use an egg or milk wash on the top of my scones. I think they look much better with a lighter colour on the finished scone. But that's just a personal preference. You do what you like with your scones. OK, once they're in the preheated oven, set the timer for 15 minutes. When the time is up, take out the beautifully risen scones and set them aside on a rack to cool. They smell absolutely gorgeous by the way too. And while they're cooling, I'll prepare the Chantilly cream for the filling. Right, I used the stand mixer to make the cream for these scones, but I do have some footage of me making the exact same quantity of Chantilly cream by hand for another recipe. I'll show this clip for those who don't have a mixer. It takes a little longer by hand, but you get exactly the same result. All Chantilly cream is double or heavy cream with vanilla and sugar added, and whisked until it's thick. To make the Chantilly cream by hand, add the 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract to the 350 ml of double or heavy cream, and the 1.5 teaspoons of icing or powdered sugar, and whisk until it thickens to the point where it stands up on its own. I've speeded up the video, but whisking this by hand takes about 4 to 5 minutes. Try not to go too far with it, or it will become too thick and stiff to use, and it doesn't take much for this to happen. If it does, you can rescue it by adding a couple of tablespoons of milk to thin it down a bit until you get to the right consistency. I'll be using a disposable piping bag with a medium sawtooth nozzle. This is how you fit the nozzle into the bag. If you're not comfortable using a piping bag, or you just don't have one, you can always just spoon the cream onto the scone. This is how I fill the bag with cream. This takes a little practice, however. A better way for the inexperienced is to place the point of the bag inside a large deep container, like a pint glass or a large vase, like the example on the image, and you can fill it that way hands-free. Right, that's the bag filled. Now that can go in the fridge until I need it. The scones are now cool enough to cut in half, ready for the next stage. Be careful to keep both sides of the same scone together, so when they go back together, the correct top goes back onto its original bottom. Next job is to butter and jam the scones. I butter both sides of the scone, but I only put the strawberry jam, or should I say my homemade strawberry conserve, on the bottom of the scone. You can jam both sides if you wish. I find that a little too sweet for me, but it's up to individual tastes. I also made the butter I'm using in this video. If you want to know how I make it, it's on my BLT video on my channel. Okay, it's time to start to pipe the cream onto the scone. Or like I said earlier, just spoon the cream on if you're not using a piping bag. Just swirl the cream around the bottom of the scone. Try to keep it on the inside because when you replace the top, it spreads out a little, filling it to the edge. I'll let you watch the rest of the creaming. Once that's done, get the scones onto a serving plate ready for dusting. Just give the finished scone a dusting of icing or powdered sugar, and that's about all there is to making strawberry jam and cream scones. For the more traditional English scones you would use clotted cream for the filling, but I prefer them this way with the Chantilly cream. All you got to do now is make a nice cup of tea and enjoy this wonderful tea time treat. Well, that's about it for this one. I really do hope you give these scones or scones a try. Thanks very much for watching. Please comment, like, share and maybe subscribe so that you don't miss any future videos. In the meantime, here's a couple of my other videos you may want to watch. So until the next time, it's bye for now.